Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Morley.
And today we are joined by spiritual leader and CEO of Masters of Self University, Rachel Fiori.
Hey, Rachel.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to all of our listeners. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, this is going to be a big one for a lot of people, especially if you're in relationships, you're thinking about entering one. If you want one, sit back and let this one hit, because this is going to expand you in many ways. And, you know, I'm also grateful because you and I are a couple. And so we will be expanded as we listen to what are enlightened relationships really?
That's a big question, isn't it?
Yep.
That's a big question. So let's dive in. So I think let's pick this apart a little bit, because I think that, of course, a lot of people understand, and it's pretty common knowledge, that one of the things that impacts an individual the most in their lives in a positive way or in a very negative, harmful way, their mental health, their emotional health, are their relationships, their romantic relationships. It is like the number one, impactor of a person's mental and emotional well-being is your relationship, whether you're in one or not. And it doesn't mean being in one, you must be in one to be happy, all that nonsense. The only way to be happy is to be alone. Nonsense. But look at all the statistics, look at all the research that has been coming out the past couple of years that is creating chaos and fighting among men and women out there. Research and studies have shown that women are actually happier, better off. They are healthier mentally, emotionally when they're single, and that men are mentally and emotionally happier and healthier and better off when they are in a relationship. And that has been coming out. And of course, it creates all of our, egos love to get involved and blame and finger point and do all this nonsense. I think what we need to understand, first of all, what does it mean to be enlightened? And the majority of people, even if you are single, number one, you need to be in an enlightened relationship with yourself. That's number one. Number two, if you are in a romantic relationship, or you want to be, like your goal is not to be single, like you would like to be in a partnership, you would like to be in some sort of life partnership, marriage officially or not, doesn't matter. You would love to be in a romantic partnership. Then let's understand what that actually means to have an enlightened one. Right? So people can stop bickering and fighting out there because it's ridiculous, and instead heal and elevate so that you can have an enlightened relationship. In order to have one, you need to first have one with yourself. And that's where we need to start. And then what does that look like as a couple? So let's go there.
Yeah. I mean, I think if people hear that, they're going to be like, then I'm never going to get in a relationship, because how am I going to get enlightened? And I think, too, without this work that I've learned here at Masters of Self University, like I don't know if you and I could have really lasted and really gotten through without this work.
We may have, it wouldn't have looked.
No.
We wouldn't be where we're at now.
Yeah.
A year in.
Yeah.
And be smiling and like in a joyous place. We will probably still be riding the waves of the highs and the lows, and the highs and lows. Because that's how my relationships were for a long time. It was like these ups and downs, because you put all of your wants and needs into your partner. Yes. And then anytime that they pull away slightly, it made me plummet down, because I was feeling like all of my love was being ripped away, which is setting you up for failure, because now you're giving your partner these unrealistic expectations. Yes. And it's only through this work that we've learned to let me get that from within. Yeah. And then anything that your partner does bring you, it's just bonus on top.
Yeah. And my last relationship, and I think a lot of women do this, is He was so emotionally disconnected. I mean, and so was I, right? But I'm still a woman, so I still can feel, right? I would blame it. Everything that was bad was his fault because he was so disconnected, because he didn't show literally any emotions. Our relationship became this, you're the reason why we're not elevating. You're the reason why we're not growing. You're the reason why this love doesn't grow at all. So it became this, like, all I did was project
Right.
until it imploded and it ended.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we love to look at our partners to fill us up, to meet our needs. And it is taught out there. And here, I'm going to challenge people right now. This is a good, healthy, beautiful challenge. Why do you think that bullshit is taught? And don't get trapped in your mind. I am planting that seed for you. Hopefully that seed will sprout and start to grow something more enlightened and divine in your understanding later. Why do you think this garbage of codependency, helplessness, and powerlessness is taught by so many people in the world? This is how easily you are to control. If you're powerless and you're codependent and you're needy and you are always looking outside of yourself, help, heal, love me, validate me, acknowledge me, you are the perfect level of consciousness to control you. Really let that sink in. Really let that sink in. So if you are easily manipulated and controlled, and you are now functioning because you've been taught this by society, you are functioning in that way in your relationship, in order to understand what a highly conscious or a divine relationship or an enlightened relationship actually is, you have to be willing to understand how you are not that first. Your programs, your wounds, all of your unhealed inner child aspects that are getting triggered and activated and showing up in the relationship, your fear of abandonment, your sabotage, all of these programs get activated and start playing out in a relationship, right? So this is why it's really critical to have a healthy, enlightened relationship with yourself first, is that I am willing to see and own my wounds, my programs. I am willing to grow up and be mature enough to meet my needs, because my needs must be met by me. If I am looking outside of myself for someone else to meet my needs, I am showing up as an infant, as a child looking for mommy or daddy to take care of me and meet my needs and coddle me and wipe my ass after I take a crap. Why am I doing that? I'm trapped in unhealed wounds. I am trapped in a child version of me that needs a mommy or daddy. So people are literally looking for mommies or daddies, and they don't have the awareness that they are. So that's where we need to start understanding that piece of this versus, oh, great, it sounds so amazing. I want a divine relationship. I want a sacred relationship. I want an enlightened relationship. Okay, great. You can have one. You cannot have one if you don't focus on what needs to be healed within yourself as an individual while you're single and also while you are in a relationship. That's where everybody needs to start. If we gloss over that part, you will never have a sacred, divine, enlightened relationship because it's literally impossible.
Yeah.
It's a very sad truth that I had to face, was that most times in my life, I'm showing up as a child.
Yes.
And we don't realize we are.
Right.
Until we start really doing the work. And that's what you taught me. And that's what we teach at MSU, is to actually see how we are actually showing up, not what it is that we think we are. I thought I was at that time, like 29-year-old, 28-year-old, walking around in this physical body, but I'm behaving like a child. I'm needing my partner to show me love, to give. That's not an enlightened, divine being, a powerful being at all. Constantly going around with an empty cup, needing someone else to fill it.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that we have to become fully enlightened.
No.
All we're saying here is, no, start to build an enlightened relationship with yourself, empower yourself, and then that can flow through, and that's the way that you connect to others. I didn't realize up until this past few months that the way that I was showing up to everyone in my life was connecting through woundedness.
Yes.
Because I had so many wounds as a child, partly because I was so sensitive and I didn't have a guide to guide me through life, I'd accumulated all these wounds and I was walking around connecting through them.
Yes.
And granted, like, yeah, I'm sure there was places where I wasn't doing that, but most of the time I was connecting with people, whether it be friends or romantic partners, through some space of like needing to be accepted, needing to be loved, wanting attention, needing to be validated. And these are all things that I should have like received from as a child, but I didn't. And this is where we're at collectively.
Exactly.
And it begins with going in and doing that work on the self.
You got it. Absolutely. And that's the beauty of this work, is seeing that I have all of these things. Look at me. I am actually creating a parent-child relationship with my partner. How can I heal that? Because that's the work to create an enlightened relationship. Is first, we have to stop creating a parent-child relationship. Because what happens over time, a lot of things happen over time that we don't want to experience, and we do. And oh, why is the relationship going bad? But one of the biggest things that happens, a lot of people will complain and be like, I don't understand. Like, where'd the sex go? Like, the sex will start to die out and there's no passion. And all the garbage you'll hear out there in the collective is like, well, it's normal for the, no, wait a minute. Because it's normal doesn't mean it's okay or it's not dysfunctional. Normal is often dysfunctional. Just because that's normal doesn't mean it isn't dysfunctional. It's very common is a better word. But why is that common? Because that is huge in relationships, that the passion dies, the sex dies, what goes away. And I know people are familiar enough with this. They try to figure this out in the world. When you understand, though, on a deeper level, yes, it's true. A lot of people will teach, like, look, you need to have an emotional connection here. Okay. All that stuff that people learn out there, very true, really valid, super critical and important, but I'm going to go deeper with it. The emotional connection needs to be one of maturity, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You need to connect at a level of maturity, not from a level of a parent-child. Because if you're showing up as a child and you're forcing your partner to be a parent, you're asking your parent to have sex with you. I mean, think about that, because that is what energetically, that is what you're doing. If one of you or both of you are showing up as children, 6-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and then you're like, let's have makeup sex. You're having sex. Children are having sex because you are a child showing up in the relationship, which means all you're doing is reinforcing the negative programming, the wounding that was activated and triggered to begin with. And because there's now pleasure involved, you're reinforcing the old dysfunctional patterns, literally never allowing them to heal. And saying that, where'd the passion go? The passion died. Oh, we need to be more intimate. Let's do all of these. Let's focus on sex is literally the most unhealthy, dysfunctional thing that a couple can do when there are problems and conflicts in the relationship. It is the worst fucking thing anybody can do, because you are, number one, you're not addressing the actual problems that are there. Number two, you're reinforcing this very dysfunctional, unhealthy way that we are brainwashed to look at sex, which is, adult child. Like, one of you is the adult in a scenario at any given moment, and the other one is the child. Sometimes we're both children, but children shouldn't be having sex with each other. And an adult shouldn't be having sex with a child. And we are showing up as children, which means sex should be actually off the fucking table. Let's heal what is in front of us. Why? Then we learn how to connect in a divine way, in a very mature adult way. Now let's learn how to playfully enjoy sex as actual adults, not as dysfunctional, wounded children. And that, in an enlightened relationship, when there is a problem to be healed in the relationship, you show up and you heal it. And then you connect emotionally, spiritually, and only after that do you connect sexually. And it doesn't mean you need to connect sexually. You've already connected in the most profound way that you can connect. And a lot of times people use sex to try to connect and they feel more connected to their partner, except they don't realize they're connecting from woundedness and dysfunction. Ew, let's get that off the table. And let's start to connect from a place of healing. So in the future, we can connect from a healed place. Now we've grown up enough where divine adults can engage in anything sexual that they want to. And there's a whole nother level to enjoy when you come from that place. But if you're not healing first and you don't see that you're connecting from dysfunctional, unhealthy, wounding programs, etc., sex, you are literally poisoning the sexual relationship that you could have with your partner, because you're having a parent-child sexual relationship. We want that to end.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on the internet and if you really get into quote unquote spirituality, I mean, divine, sacred union, it all revolves around sex. It's all about this, like, how much you can ejaculate and come and like be in this energetic thing together. And I a year ago met a couple that was that's their whole brand. And I thought they were like really powerful and they were like two healed people, and that's why they're having this beautiful sex. And then I met them and I was like, he seems like he's 5 and she's like 12. And they're just pretending like they're in their power because now they have to put on the mask of, well, we're really sexual and we've reached like the divine places of orgasms and all these things. When in reality, it's like neither of you seem to actually be doing the inner work. You're just using sex. And then what sex actually is becomes so tarnished. And then I started to see that and I was like, I never want to show up like that, because that isn't power at all. In reality, what I feel is attachment and codependency and neediness.
There you go. There you go. It's dysfunctional, it's harmful, it's unhealthy. It keeps us immature, and we mask everything with sex. Look how low functioning we are in our level of consciousness when everything has to be about sex. Like, we've no fucking control over ourselves. That isn't love. Sex isn't love. That's not unconditional love. We have to take a step back and be willing to see how like unhealthy, how fucked up and dysfunctional we are. And that's the warrior's journey, because you cannot be enlightened if you're not willing to see how unhealthy and dysfunctional you are. You have to be willing to see, I'm going to see and pull from my blind spot. I'm willing to go into the darkness and pull from my blind spot how I may be perpetuating an extreme amount of dysfunction in my relationship, even though it's like there's pleasure and it feels good, but emotionally go deeper. And the couple that you gave the example of, if they were to really go deeper and instead of using just sexual pleasure to help mask and avoid and suppress what's going on, because that's what sex is used for a lot, right? Instead of doing that, you go into the wounding and you learn how to show up as a divine adult. And then it isn't about pleasure, takes on a whole new meaning, but it isn't just this physical, sensual, oh, just learn Tantra. You'll learn all this if you just do tantric sex. It isn't about that. People can't comprehend what it is yet because they're too trapped in sex. You have to get out of that and evolve enough as humans to elevate your relationship to one to where you're connecting from, guess what? I'm going to say it for those who follow, from the universal ways of oneness. Out of 20 universal ways of oneness, all aspects of oneness consciousness that we can each achieve as humans to truly authentically become divine adults, divine humans on this planet, enlightened humans on this planet. Out of the 20, one of them isn't sex. There's a reason for that. Because when we talk about oneness consciousness and divinity, it isn't anything temporary. It isn't temporary. Sex is temporary pleasure. And temporary isn't just for the minutes that you're having it. your whole lifetime, you don't have sex from the minute you're born to the minute you die. That's only one of millions of aspects of your life, for crying out loud, of your existence. We put way too much emphasis on it. It's ridiculous, right? So to become a divine person doesn't mean that you are living as anything temporarily. It is what you become to align and integrate with your soul self while having this temporary experience. And that's what the 20 universal ways of oneness are. It's how can we show up as divine beings? Because if you show up as divine beings, the way of responsibility, the way of patience, the way of surrender, et cetera, et cetera. Think about what the aspects of the ways of oneness are: compassion, unconditional love, purity, loyalty, harmlessness, and gentleness. So an enlightened relationship, what does that look like? It looks like someone in a relationship gets triggered or activated in wounding, they're hurt, there's a conflict in the relationship, and I am willing to push the pause button on any negative interaction between the two of us. I breathe, I drop into my heart, I acknowledge something is wrong. I am first way of oneness, the way of responsibility. That is an enlightened relationship. I show up as the way of responsibility. An enlightened relationship does not mean there isn't a conflict, there isn't a problem, there isn't hurt feelings, somebody hasn't made a poor choice, that we don't make mistakes, that we don't stumble and fall and go through a rough patch. That's not what it means. That's our human experience. Those things are going to happen. What it does mean is when those things do happen, I am going to show up as each way of oneness. And when I don't, I am going to see and acknowledge and own that I didn't or I'm not. And I am going to be powerful enough to stop, recalibrate, start from square one, which is, what is my responsibility right here, right now, in this scenario, in this conflict, in this relationship? That is the way of responsibility. So I go back to the way of oneness, number one, of the universal ways of oneness. I go all the way back to number one. Am I showing up 100% as the way of responsibility? And if the answer is no, that's where I start. And if the answer is yes, great. Go to number two. Am I showing up as the way of patience for myself, my pain, and for my partner and his or her pain? And that is a simple yes or no, not a, well, a little bit, but that means no, I'm not. And if I am, great. I move on to the next one. Am I in the way of surrender? Zero resistance to this. If the answer is no, I stop, and that's where I do my work for myself, on myself, and also with my partner. We use the ways of oneness as a guide.
And ultimately, the way of connection is where we're trying to get to with this, this act of sex and intimacy. And you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned about, like, you were talking about tantra and tantric sex, and I've got a few books on this, and I've done a little bit of research into it. But when I was reading about this in the past, I was understanding it from my mind, and then I was trying a few of these. I understood a little bit. I was trying a few of these concepts in my romantic partnerships, but because I hadn't fully embodied the wisdom, it was just like I was looking through this new lens, but I hadn't actually expanded my consciousness and my awareness. So there's this distinction here that I'm going deeper and deeper into, and I'd love for you to touch on it, between like understanding something from the mind level and then actually expanding your consciousness. Because the reason why we're drawn towards this experience is because it feels good.
Yep.
So it feels good in the moment, but that might be because you're forming a connection through your ego. It's being filtered through a room of, let's just say, like rejection or being accepted by your partner. And so you're connecting through it, but it feels good. Or lust of objectification. That's an easy one for what we're talking about, right? So I feel this lustful energy. I'm connecting with my partner through this love. I'm objectifying them. And it feels good, but it only feels good because there's like this energetic resonance between you and your partner. But the actual feeling, if you was to start to increase your awareness, is that it feels gross and it feels disgusting because your partner is not an object. She is divine, or he, depending on your orientation. And I can understand this from the mind, but it's only until you do the really deep inner work on expanding your level of consciousness that then when you're connecting with them, you can feel the difference energetically. And it's only been this year that I've experienced like what these books were talking about. And this is where like I've done this reading and it's great, and I tried to figure it out. It didn't take me anywhere. It was only from doing this work, and then it would, between Ellie and I, things have opened up organically without having to look back at the book. It's just because of who we are becoming.
You got it.
That the true, like in those moments, our consciousness, or at least mine definitely was expanding. And I could feel that there was a connection that I've never had through the act of sex or whatever sexual practices that I've never had, even though I did all this like research into understanding how to connect with your partner through tantric practices. But it didn't mean anything because it was in my mind. It only meant something once I expanded my awareness and I've raised my level of consciousness.
That's it. That's magnificent. Absolutely beautiful. And that is an important thing to truly understand. We live in the upside down world, and we have for centuries. Like, we do everything backwards and upside down. It's a matter of like, do this practice, do this technique. This will make you feel better. Try this if you want to, have better sex with your partner, or the passion died. Oh, reignite the passion. When really it's like, maybe become a better being. Let's become better humans. Why is that not just number one 100% of the time? How can I become a more magnificent version of me? How can I become a more magnificent being? How can I be a better human first? How can I acknowledge and connect to my divinity as a soul, as a divine, formless being first, and bring that through the way that I live my life, the way that I show up in every aspect of my life? If I become, the way of truth, for example, think about all the lies and manipulation we have in relationships, all the secrets we keep. And then we're like, oh, Tantra, let's do that because that'll be amazing for our relationship. But you haven't even healed the fact that one of you or both of you are lying. Doesn't make any sense. You take you with you wherever you go. You infuse yourself into, energetically, every single thing you participate in. And that includes sex with another person. That is an exchange of energy. What is that energy? Every single thing that you are. That means every wound, every program, every lie, every time you manipulate, every time you objectify, you're infusing that in. You can't not. It is a part of who you are. Everything is energy. So why, if we were actually loving beings, why, if I have fear and abandonment issues and lust issues and objectification and inequality versus the way of equality, if I'm carrying these things inside of myself, why, if I was a loving being, would I energetically dump all of that, exchange all of that with you, give all of that to you for the sake of an orgasm? How selfish and disgusting and grotesque am I if that's what I'm doing? And that's what we need to wake up to. I never, ever, ever want to give that and exchange that and dump that onto another human being for the sake of what? Some temporary physical pleasure? What the fuck does that say about me as a human? Ew. It is not I'm not at a high level like I like to think I am, right? Really, really let this sink in for those who are listening. But if I refocus my life on becoming, not the words, not intellectually, actually becoming the beingness of, energetically, I vibrate at the frequency of, I show up as the way of truth, the way of presence in every aspect of my life. No longer will couples fight over the fucking dishes. No such thing. The fighting is done. There's no more fighting in a relationship. When we are showing up and becoming oneness consciousness, those enlightened aspects, when we are becoming harmlessness and gentleness, when we are becoming the way of compassion, the way of connection, no longer settling for connecting through toxic energies, through patterns that are toxic, through harm, through lust, through objectification. I will not connect to another human being that way. That is my divine responsibility to not connect to another human being when I am that, when I still have that running through me. So I won't. That's divine responsibility, right? So when we actually learn how to become all of these different ways, the way of honoring, the way of honoring is so powerful. When you learn how to show up as the way of honoring for yourself in every way, and then that means you are able to do that in a divine, literal way for your partner to show up as the way of honoring. Oh my God, the way of harmlessness and gentleness. Oh my God, you are sexy on a level that you can't fucking imagine. And now let's be affectionate with each other from that place and space. Let's touch each other from that place and space. And I haven't even gotten to the sex part yet. And that's where we want it. You want to talk about passion? Become the ways of oneness. Passion now has a divine meaning. Passion is not about having sex or not having sex. It has nothing to do with sex. Passion is vibratory, and it does not stem from anything sexual. Passion arises out of your divine nature. Divinity is passionate. Divinity is playful. Divinity is honoring. Divinity is loyal. These are aspects of oneness consciousness. So that's what we want to become. And if we can work on that, our relationship will heal organically. And then the passion, the love, the sexual intimacy will explode, because that's just a natural byproduct of all of this work. That's what an enlightened relationship is, really.
Wow, beautiful. As you were talking, I realized this whole phenomena of sex and how people are using that as their spiritual practice, even as a way to ascend and all of these things. It's another form of bypassing.
Another form of bypassing.
It's let's just bypass everything and all our wounding so that we can connect and we can feel love and we can do this and we can reach higher levels, when in reality, it's not anything that they think that it is.
No.
And I think before I started this work, I was really drawn to that, because I was like, maybe that's the answer. Yeah. You know, like if I connect with someone and I experience these higher levels, I'll ascend and it'll be amazing. And it's like, I was even finding teachers that like, well, when you orgasm and you masturbate, then you can manifest and like you can have, and it's like, it is so toxic, and people are so desperate for the answers, right? They cling on to this and then they get wrapped up in all that, and there's no actual healing going on because you're just bypassing. Oh my God.
Because everyone knows from all the spiritual teachings that it all comes from within, right? Everyone, you look at any spiritual teaching, you know that.
Yes.
But there isn't, this is my experience, there isn't anything out there that is actually teaching you on how to have that, how to find that power within. No one is actually, no one I found actually taught me how. The only places that got remotely close were plant medicine ceremonies, and that's using something outside of yourself, have a momentary expanded state of consciousness.
Yes.
But same thing, you're not integrating anything if you're not doing the work outside of that. And my experience with going and doing plant medicine at a retreat center is, after doing that, there was no integration process. They gave you, like, I think, a one worksheet, and that was it. You were on your way. Whereas the work that you taught us and that we all teach is all about everyday practicality and how well can you actually integrate this work. Because it's great having, even if you go into a sexual experience and you have like an expanded state of consciousness, if you're not then like integrating that and understanding how you got there and how you can achieve that within by yourself, it means nothing. So this idea of like, just go within, there is so little guidance to actually help people get there. And that's because I can speak for myself. I was trapped at such a young age, emotionally, mentally, was trapped at such a young age with all of the wounds. And it's not until we start clearing out those wounds that we can start to open up to our divine self.
You got it. That's beautiful. And to circle back, because I want to touch on a couple things that were mentioned, you know, when Ellie was sharing, like, what's being taught out there is like, I've heard the same things as far as manifesting and masturbating and like, listen, ugh. So anytime you want to manifest something in your life, you're going to go masturbate and have an orgasm. Let's have a business meeting. Oh, I don't know how we're going to get the funds for this. Let's all masturbate real quick. Like, bring out the vibrators. Like, how are we going to get you? Did you bring the oil? Okay. Just turn your video off on Zoom real quick. Come back in 5. Like, it doesn't even make, and then to think about, like, do we have no honor for other people and respect other people? Like, that, do you think if I say, hey, you know, we're starting a new mystical life coach certification class, let's get other people really certified in this incredible, amazing, powerful work. Let me masturbate real quick. Hey, nice to see you, students. Guess how I got you here? I masturbated to you. Is that going to feel good to you? Like, it's so fucking ridiculous.
No.
Like, ew, you're doing what, Rachel? You got me here. How? I manifested you here because I masturbated. Do you want to see my vibrator? Do you want to see the oil I use? It's like, I'm saying it this way for a reason, because it's fucking ridiculous. When I hear people teaching, I'm like, you got to be kidding me that you're now telling people to masturbate to manifest is the most ridiculous thing. So the only way you can be powerful enough to bring something into your existence or your reality is to like masturbate to it, because orgasms are really powerful and intense. You are way more powerful in your energy than a goddamn orgasm. Way more powerful than a fucking temporary earthly experience called an orgasm. You are unfathomably more powerful energetically than a fucking orgasm. And that's how you know how low people are functioning, because they think that's the most powerful, intense. It isn't. It doesn't come close to how powerful your energy is when you are truly connected and you are completely healed and you are elevating higher, higher, higher. There is no experience of an orgasm that comes close to how powerful you feel by just being the divine you in this moment. There's no comparison. So let's keep our sexual energy out of our manifestations, because a lot of times our manifestations have to deal with other people. And that is a violation energetically. Without other people knowing that there's sexual energy here, stop it. Stop it.
Wow. Fascinating.
Well, Rachel, I really think you made that point. That was pretty hilarious. So I'd like to continue down the road of our title. So from what you said, I'm gathering, the first thing you have to do is create a more of an enlightened relationship with yourself. So that's step one. And one of the big things that I've seen in myself, and I've seen it in past relationships and meetups, is that a lot of worth is built into sex. And as a guy, it's when you're dating someone, how quickly can you get her into your bed?
Yep.
And I've fallen down that road, and I know what that's like. I know that societal program. I've lived it, and I can say it's not the answer. And on the other side, I've been on the other end of it, where I felt that the woman thought, well, in order for me to show my worth, I have to get him into bed. Right. And I know what that feels like. And that's clearly not an enlightened divine level. So the thing I'm seeing is like, stop jumping into bed with people immediately.
Yep.
Stop giving away your power.
Yep.
And find that worth within yourself, which is hard. But if you come to the Master Self University, this is exactly what we teach people to do in our group classes, as our coaching programs. But what after that? So I've started creating an enlightened relationship with myself. I've stopped jumping into bed with people immediately.
Yep.
What are the next steps, and what down the line does an enlightened relationship look like?
So let me build upon that dating part for a moment. Let's do that first. So to stop jumping into bed immediately means, well, what do we do instead? Stand in your power. Get to know somebody for a while. Spend several months seeing if you actually like them. And I don't mean there's chemistry and, oh my God, I really want to fuck them. They're so sexy. They're gorgeous. I'm so attracted. There's such a chemistry there. That's okay. Beautiful. Great. That's exciting. That's fun. There's nothing wrong with that part. It's just, why am I going to exchange energy on a level where the very next day you're going to find out quick if that's all they wanted from you? Why, people talk about having, a partnership, the one, finding their soulmate. If that's your soulmate, they're not going anywhere. Hello? If that is your soulmate, they're not going anywhere. There aren't these toxic, manipulative fucking games and who's going to do, how are we going to get the other one into bed? How long am I going to resist and say no? Stop playing the fucking games. It's, I want to get to know you and I want to connect with you, your soul from my soul. So let's just get to know each other. Did we have fun? Was there a good conversation? Did we have things in common? Were we laughing? Okay. Just, do you like the person at first? Get to know them, because the masks start to come down after a while. You need to get through the masks. Okay. Get through the masks. Everybody's going to try to be like the funny one or the sweet. Oh, look at me. I'm this and that. That shit you need enough time for that shit to get out of the way, because that's not what's there 10 years later. The masks, all the fake crap we do. I want to see the real you. I want to see, first of all, can I just have fun with you and have a great time? Because if I can, and this doesn't work out romantically, I might have made a new beautiful connection. You might be a great friend. That is really valuable in this lifetime, to have a new friend in the world. And that's not childish. We need more of genuine, authentic friendships, beautiful, loving connections with people that have nothing to fucking do with sex. So if this turns out that we don't like each other and you think I'm an asshole and I think you're an asshole, that is beautiful. Why is it beautiful? We know to part ways and I didn't fuck you. I don't have to get rid of that. Ew, I don't have to regret anything. And if it turns out that I like you so much, I think you're awesome, and you like me so much, we have a friendship now. We just increased our circle of beautiful friendships. Isn't that amazing? There's nothing negative about that. Beautiful. And if it turns out we are really liking each other more and more, and yes, there's this sexual chemistry thing. Let me back up. You ever notice how you see somebody's programming, it turns out they're kind of an asshole, and you're like, ew, and they are not attractive anymore at all? You ever have that experience? Man or woman, doesn't matter what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yes.
Why are they suddenly so ugly? Because the truth is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Understand, the illusion of being sexually attracted is usually because the truth is not in front of you. And there's the trap. And there's the trap. Suddenly the truth of the person starts coming out and they are suddenly uglier. And you're looking at the same person that at first glance you were like, holy fucking shit, did you see that walk by? Of course, in objectification, right?
Yeah.
But we do that. And then we see the truth in that person. It's like, ew, like I'm looking at the same person, not attracted at all. You're actually kind of ugly to me. Now, I can't believe I thought you were attractive. Not that you would say that to a person, but this is your self-talk. You're realizing this. Okay. You realize this for a reason. The truth is coming out. Now you don't have to have regrets anymore. Like, I can't believe I slept with this person. So fast forward, and we'll wrap it up with the fast forward, push forward button. All right. If you are in a relationship with somebody and you actually started it from truth, from getting to know that person, connecting on a soul level, when you become the way of connection, that's connecting with my divine self first. It's showing up as the way of responsibility, patience, surrender, truth, presence, connection, compassion, harmlessness, and gentleness, equality, trust, honoring of the other person, selfless service, loyalty, unconditional love, humility, integrity, forgiveness, purity, wisdom, and harmony. All 20 ways of oneness. If that is your commitment to yourself, you will weed out the jerks, male or female, really quickly when you're dating. You will also, if you are actually in a relationship, you will also heal everything in that relationship that is not in harmony, because you are committed to the ways of oneness, that is committed to your universally divine self first, which means you then settle for nothing less than divinity in your relationship and your commitment to one another, which means nothing ever bad or negative can come from that. Only beautiful, positive outcomes can come, even if it means parting ways, because there is a much better match out there for you. You're now coming from divinity, not from ego, not from wounding, not from pain, not from shadow self. You're coming from divinity. An enlightened relationship knows when to end and part ways. It doesn't mean it's not enlightened just because it ends. That's something we have to remember too.
I want to bring it back to a personal example, because just because you're not healed and whole doesn't mean, like, you don't have to show up in this perfect format that we're talking about here with your partner. Ellie and I, when we first met, we connected in some very unhealthy ways. But we're here and we don't do that anymore. So I'm bringing this up because if you're in a partnership right now, or if you're looking to get a partnership, we're not saying that this is the exact blueprint of what you must follow and what everything must look like. While you're still working through your wounds, while you're still connecting through your ego, it is going to happen. And that's okay. As long as you're with your partner, you're working through this. You're recognizing in yourself, you're course correcting that, oh, I can feel the energy in which I'm connecting with this person right now. And it isn't at a divine level. I can feel that I just want to be made feel whole right now. I can tell that I'm objectifying her right now, and I don't want to do that. And the more that you do this work in yourself, you become aware of exactly what energy you're coming from. So that doesn't mean that you have to become enlightened within yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to find an enlightened partner. It can be the exact partnership you're in right now. Just start increasing the awareness. Start understanding, where am I connecting with my partner in a less than divine way? Go through those ways of oneness. There was one thing that I was doing with Ellie for a long time, as I was trying to connect with her. I was trying to connect with her from what I thought connection was. And I was doing my best and failing, because she was at a different level of where and a perception of what connection was. And it wasn't until I got the advice from Rachel, is come down and meet her from a divine level. Doesn't mean lowering your power, but meet her at the level of which she can connect with you at. And whether that's just going grocery shopping or watching some just TV shows that are pretty meaningless, right? But at that level, that was what was safe. And that allowed us to build that connection. And that was divine. That was, even though it might not have been the highest level of connection we could achieve, it was at that time. And that was perfect. And that allowed us to both emotionally and spiritually and mentally mature. And this is a constant evolving process that's going to continue. So you don't have to be 100% enlightened to do this. And you don't need to follow step by step. It's okay if you are still connecting. Just become aware of it and start to evolve.
That's the point of this work. That's beautiful. That's the point of the work. It's not to be perfection. It's to see where you're at and start to grow and elevate towards these higher levels, so that the beautiful connection can become more and more and more beautiful, or the broken one can become healed. That's the point of all the work. Is beautifully said, Danny.
Yeah. And just to end it all, Rachel, there's a lot of people, I think me and Danny make videos on our relationship and how we work through things. And we get a lot of comments of I can't wait for this. And this is exactly what I'm manifesting. And this is what I want. It's this is the next level of your evolution.
Yes.
Entering into. So could you just wrap up the episode on people who are this is what I want. I can't wait for it, because there is still this energy of when they find that they will become whole.
Right. It's really I love that you said that. It's really understanding that in order to have the beautiful aspects that all of you will see when Ellie and Danny share aspects of their relationship online, they're emphasizing the hard work. They're emphasizing the wounding that gets activated. And yes, I understand why people want that. They want somebody who is mature enough and responsible enough to do the real work when things get triggered. So I think that's what they're wanting. But do not mistaken for listeners, that the beautiful relationship that they have, it doesn't matter that they're soulmates. No soulmate will last if you don't do the real work.
Yes.
And that's the beautiful part of what you guys are able to share with everybody that follow you. You still have to do the work. And when you do the work and become more and more elevated and enlightened, then all the things heal. And yes, it increases and deepens your bond over time when that's how you're showing up in the relationship.
Beautiful. Mic drop on that. Everybody go get Mason's Way, please. 20 Universal Ways of Oneness, taught by the Spirit of an Enlightened Dog. It's on Amazon by Rachel Fiori. I mean, it will change the course of your life. It is changing ours in the most beautiful ways. If any of you out there you're feeling the call, you can set up a free consultation with us at mastersofselfuniversity.com. Subscribe, rate, share, comment, all the things. And thank you so much for being always an honor. Always an honor, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yes. And to everyone at home, we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.